Hello and welcome to Spare Change News TV. My name is Sam Baltrusis. I'm the editor-in-chief of Spare Change News. Joining me today is James Shearer. He is the co-founder of Spare Change News. So welcome.
Hey, it's good to be here.
So today we're going to talk about your experience with Spare Change News. We have this fantastic documentary. And so tell me, like, how did you? We have a documentary coming on up later, a segment talking about your experience with Spare Change News. But what got you inspired to become a part of the paper, or to actually launch the paper in the '90s?
Basically, it was simple, really. We were just a group of homeless people that were really, really frustrated at the way the system worked. The way the system works is it's about I'd say a carrot leading a horse type thing, where they tell you that if you do this, that, and the other thing, that we'll get you housing, we'll get you services, we'll get you this. And what eventually happens is you do all those things and they pull the carrot back. Right. And that gets kind of frustrating. So we decided that we wanted to do for ourselves, so we wanted to find a way to make money. The other thing was that we wanted to put not faces but words to the people. Most times when media talks about homelessness, they talk about statistics, or they say we're all crazy, they say we're all substance abusers, and we wanted to show through our writings that wasn't so we wanted to give ourselves a voice. Well,
speaking of that, we have our cover story this past issue is the census shocker. It was about the census, and it also says I am not just a number. So it's important, I think, to really advocate that our vendors in the homeless population, they're not just numbers. I mean, do you feel like that's still an issue today?
I still feel like it's an issue today. I'm not a big fan of the census for the simple fact that they don't count. They only count what they see. They don't go into train stations. They don't go on rooftops. They don't count the people that are probably couch surfing. They only count what they see in the people that are in the shelters. And you're really not getting an accurate count, and it gives off this false pretense as if it's not as bad as it seems, when it's much, much worse. So I've never been a big fan of the census at all.
Well, can I give you a perspective? Mayor Walsh actually went out in the field, and they did actually go out and try to, find the homeless people out. But at first, it was freezing, and then also a lot of people. And this is just from talking to the homeless population in Cambridge and in Boston. They come to Cambridge when it's census night. Have you found that?
That truly happens, and the reason why, I can tell you why that happens. They don't want to be found. They don't want to be counted, because they feel, okay, so what? You count me, you're not going to do anything about it anyway. And that's their attitude. So they'd just rather not be a part of it. So they go across the bridge. They come across over to Cambridge.
So the reason why we have you on the show tonight is you're working on a project. It's called Voices of Homeless, and I was able to go to your event, your launch party, talking about the event. So give us a little bit of a rundown about Voices of Homeless.
Voices of Homeless is building on what Spare Change was, really. We want to put faces to the people now. We want to tell people's stories, my story, other people's story, people that have been there, because the public generally doesn't know what goes on when people are homeless. They think, oh, it's just a big fun party that we go out and bump change all day, and that's about the extent of it. There's a lot more to it than that. It's an issue in itself. We have thoughts, we have dreams. There are other things that go on during the day that frustrate us, and I wanted to show that.
All right, so we're going to go to a documentary. Well, it's a segment regarding James's launch. We're going to have a footage from 1994. So tell me, like, what was it like looking back on '94 now? Like, what would you tell yourself back in '94 if you could talk to yourself?
I actually don't know. I actually don't know. I think there were a lot of things that I may have been able to do better to make Spare Change more effective than it was, but there's not much I would change.
The idea was for a homeless newspaper, for people to sell it. There's nothing very original about that, but what was original about it is that we would own, operate, and make all the decisions on the newspaper. That was definitely different, and it's called empowerment. There are people that come here that really want to do for them. They're not working for us, they're working for themselves. Those are the people that want to come in here and want to make a difference in their lives. The people that submit papers, submit stuff are homeless, formerly homeless people. And what we write about is anything from, at first we were just basically a fluff newspaper. We talked about things that homeless people went through during the day on the streets and everything. But now we're more political. We basically see a wrong and talk about it. We try to dispel all the myths about homelessness, which to everyone's a drunk or everybody's a bag lady. It's not true.
One word, alone. If you're homeless, when you're homeless, you'll be in a crowded street. You're walking up a crowded street. You're in the Boston Commons. There's thousands of people in the Commons around you. And it's wintertime. It's daylight. And in a couple of hours, it's going to be nighttime. You're not going to have anywhere to go. You're going to come walking back to this park. This park's going to be empty because everybody's going to have somewhere to go, except you. If that was my mom, what would I do? If that was my brother, what would I do? If that was my sister, that was my dad, you know what I mean. What would you do? Do it. Don't talk about it. Just do it. 23 years ago, a group of homeless people, including myself, started an organization called Spare Change Newspaper. The whole premise behind Spare Change was to change the way people saw homelessness. We wanted people to see homelessness in a different way. Everybody sees us as, I don't know, crazy, as addicts, or as, they saw us as everything but human. And they also saw us as a bunch of numbers. Every time people talk about homelessness, like the media, they throw a bunch of numbers at you. That there's that many people, this many people. So what we want to do is change all that. So we decided to put down in words exactly who we are. We wanted to build a bridge between the haves and the have-nots. All right, and we wanted to show people that anybody, regardless of where they come from, where they're stationed in life, no matter what their race is, they can all become homeless. Everybody's subject to being homeless. Only one paycheck away. It don't take that long or that much to get to be out here in the street. Voices of the Homeless, and this documentary is building on that. We're going to put faces. I want to put faces to the names and to the people that you hear and see about out there. We don't want to be just numbers anymore. We want to be seen as people, as human beings. So I want you to look at these people, and I want you to think about their stories, and I want you to ask yourself, if this was a friend, a mom, a dad, what would you do? You know, I want you to see part of this documentary, think about what we're doing here, think about what we're trying to say, and then raise up and get involved, because the only way you're going to end it is if you stand up and say something about it. And with that, I'm going to be quiet. Thank you. You're welcome.
So tell me, like, did they approach you with the idea, or how did this come about?
This is something that I've always wanted to do. During the time that I was board president over at Spare Change, I thought about it a lot. And what gave me the idea was, a few years back, I was walking through a train station and I ran into this guy named Michael. Michael was a street musician. He was also homeless, and he used to play harmonica. And he was playing a Beatles song. I believe it was Imagine. And it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever heard. And one thing I kept thinking about was, you know what? Nobody beyond this subway is going to hear this.
Yeah.
And so I began to think that, what if somebody could create a way? Because there's a lot of people that are homeless people and low-income people that are very, very talented. You got people that can write, people that can sing, people that can make music, do all sorts of things. What if there was a way for them to be able to hawk their wares and show their wares, and people see this and say, wow, you know what, that guy's intelligent. What can we do to help him? And that's basically what Voices of Homelessness is going to be all about.
So when we were at the event on Wednesday, it was the Out of the Blue too in Central Square, right down the street, and they showed us other clips that were the inspiration. So other homeless people performing.
Yeah.
So how did you have a hand in any of that, or was that just to show us what?
That's just to show what exactly our idea is.
Okay.
That basically even though people are living on the street or have insufficient means, doesn't mean that they don't have talent and can be positive and can do positive things.
So as far as the documentary, so there's some hurdles, obviously, when you have a great idea, and I know this from working with Spare Change News, it takes a lot of effort and sometimes obstacles to overcome to make it a reality. What are some of the obstacles you're facing?
One of the obstacles, the most obvious obstacle we're facing is money. It takes money to do a good quality documentary, because you got to have equipment, you got to have people, you got to have all of that. So we're just starting out, and we're pretty sure that we can accomplish it, but that's the biggest hurdle right now.
So just to let our audience know, there's a GoFundMe campaign currently running, which is a crowdsourcing campaign. So it's gofundme.com/Voices of Homeless.
Yep.
Is that right? So you can actually make a contribution. And James's reputation within Spare Change News and also within the homeless community as a whole is he is many ways has been the voice for the paper for many years. Is that a lot of pressure to be sort of the go-to person when it comes to homeless related issues and being the voice for the community?
Sometimes it is. Sometimes it can be a bit much. It's sometimes people expect you to produce miracles and to have all the answers, and I don't.
Right.
I mean, I've done some really good things, but it's only because I've had some really, really good people around me. But yeah, sometimes it can be a lot of pressure. And also, excuse me, it can be a lot of fun at times. You know.
And from your perspective of doing this, is it important for you to do it outside of Spare Change News, or are you working within Spare Change News to do it?
Spare Change is going to indirectly benefit from whatever I do. Right. Because of who I am, which is a good thing. Spare Change is my savior. Spare Change saved my life, so I'm not going to just forget about that. I'll always be a part of that.
Good, because I need you. But speaking of that, you actually talk about that a little bit in your columns. You talk about your history. Also your history being homeless as well, and it's important. So with that, when you write your columns, how do you come up with that? I mean, do you have stuff written down from journals that you pull from, or do you just pull from your memory?
I usually pull from my memory. I got a lot of stuff that I remember. I got stuff that I haven't even written about yet, the Homeless Winter Blues piece that I wrote. That's out, not in this issue, but in last issue, but it's online. That I wrote about, and I remember this winter being I never remembered a winter being as cold as this. And you tend to, when you've been housed for a while, and I've been housed for a while, you tend to forget about that.
Yeah.
And this winter brought all that back. I can remember walking up the street on the Boston Common one day, and I was on my way to a speaking engagement, and the raw cold, and it was like 5 o'clock at night, and I can remember being homeless at 5 o'clock at night and thinking, where am I going to go tonight? And that brutal cold, and it's just and that fear suddenly comes over. You're like, oh God, I got to go through this again, and it's really tough. It was tough.
Well, and you. In the column that you were referring to, the Winter Homeless Blues, you actually kind of gave me an insight that I didn't have. So it's important to have people on our staff to be able to write about things that I wouldn't know about or other people wouldn't know about. The one thing I kind of hit me was how different things are. There seemed to be when you were homeless, there was more of a people would hand out food. There was more of a camaraderie, and now it's sort of a criminalization going on with the homeless population.
I think what it is a lot of it is back then homelessness was fairly new. See, I'm in my 50s now. When I was homeless, during that time, when I was still writing about that, I was in my early 20s, mid 20s, right. And it was different. Homelessness was fairly not a new thing, but just really starting to become an issue. And I think that when people first saw it, it was like, wow. So people were like trying to help any way they can. But as the crisis just ballooned out of control, I think people became desensitized to it. And now, whereas people were shocked back then to see people on the streets, and you had people like, you had just places like McDonald's that used to throwing away their food, give it to homeless people. Now you see this, get away from me, or people being arrested and all this other stuff. And it wasn't like that before. So I think people have just become desensitized to it.
I also I feel like that it's important. Like voices of homeless is important because we're dealing with human beings here. They're not numbers. They're people just like you and me. And based on whether various circumstances. And you kind of talked about this back in '94. They're not all drinking or doing drugs, and that was the biggest stereotype I think coming in. I thought that that was more prevalent than it actually is, and that's not the truth.
Yeah, it's still like that. I just read an article a little while ago about a town that was pretty much against the homeless program moving in, and people were thinking sex offenders. So there's another label you've given the homeless people
right.
that they have to deal with now. So it's like you just keep labeling people, and people are human beings. It doesn't matter what walk of life or where they came from or anything like that. People are human, and we've got to get back to treating people like human beings. That's the only way you're going to solve homelessness. That, and coming up with real programs, not Band-Aid solutions.
Now, getting back to the census, I feel like that the problem that there's sort of, I'm not going to name names, but I feel like that there's a desire to make it sound like it's not as bad of a problem as it actually is. But the reality, if you walk on the streets or if you talk to people, it's pretty bad.
It's really, really bad. I mean, that was the 35th. They've been having a census since I came to Boston. That tells you how bad it is. It hasn't gotten any better. It's gotten worse. But yet they always come up with, like I said, they always come out with these numbers to make it not seem as bad as it is. They say, well, there's not that many homeless people on the street. No, because they're hiding. They don't want to be bothered.
Well, just to kind of give you, speaking of the numbers, we'll have the actual census numbers in like a week or 2 weeks or so. But based on past experiences, Boston has the highest emergency shelter population in the country. We have one of the lowest unsheltered populations. However, I would guess based on Long Island, things have changed. Now, do you think, talking to people, that there's the closure on October 8th was huge for our community? And do you feel like, having talked to politicos and other people, what's going on with that? Like, what's going on with all those people that were displaced from Long Island?
What's going on is pretty much more of the same. When the shelter was closed, they dragged their feet on the plan to close for the shelter, for the bridge to be fixed to begin with, as if nobody knew that bridge needed to be fixed. Spare Change did an article on that months before, so we all knew the bridge had been fixed. There was no plan. People had 4 hours to get out. They had to pick up and leave. They had to leave their belongings there and just leave the island. The drug treatment facilities that were there, they're gone. The shelter itself, it was gone. There was no plan in place. It took them 4 months to get a plan in place. Now there's a shelter now open in Southampton for only 100 beds. The 450, it's supposed to be 450 after in April, but it's a little late for that. People have already died. And we're still hearing the same thing. Not to name names, but we're working on it. We're working on it. And, how long does it take you to work on it? These are people that need to be housed now, and there's not, and for them to downplay it is just wrong, because you can see just by walking the streets of how it's affected everybody. I have seen more homeless people in subway stations this winter than I have any other winter. You can see a lot of it, and for people to just deny that it isn't there, or act like, well, it's not that big of a problem, or to build a shelter and say, see what we did, everything's okay now. No, everything's not okay.
Well, we have a segment on Walsh talking about the census, the night of the census, so we're gonna click over to that.
something that people have talked about and have done kind of over the years, but it's time that we do something about it now. As I look around this room, I see about 350 people. Tonight we're probably going to count, I don't know how many people we're going to count in the street. And as I was standing here, I was thinking, hopefully my time as mayor of the city of Boston will be able to hold this census count in my office where we only need a handful of people to go out in the street. We need to do something about homelessness. We need to make sure that we end homelessness in the city of Boston. We can't just talk about it. We can't just talk about it. We built a shelter on Southampton Street where we opened 100 beds the other day. Brian Doherty, the head of the building trades. I want to thank you, Brian, for getting men and women in the building trades to come in and in some cases donate their labor. We're working on building the second phase of that shelter. Then we're also talking about how are we going to treat homelessness, how are we going to work on homelessness in the city of Boston, not just simply by giving somebody a bed over the course of a night. How do we help them get away from homelessness? How do we give them some confidence back in their life? How do we get them the services they need, whether it's detox services, mental health services, or simply get a job? Those are things that we have to do here. So I'm looking forward to moving forward. I want to thank Brian and Lindy for their great work in the task force and the building trades. I also want to thank Andy McCauley from the New England Center for Homeless Vets, who's been a great partner of ours. Andy has offered a lot of support and a lot of help, and he does a program that helps people get back on their feet, vets get back on their feet. And tonight, a lot of the folks we're going to see on the street, most of the vets might not be on the street because they understand the importance of the center right next door here. But we are going to see vets on the street tonight. We're going to have to say and try and help them along the way. And if we get them in his doors, they will do the rest. And that's what we need to do here in the city, is focus our programs like that. I also want to thank Dr. Godwell from the VA, who's here with us tonight. Thank you for your support and what you do. We have Barry Bark from the Boston Healthcare for Homeless. We have Bridge Over Troubled Waters, and as already mentioned, we have other programs that are very important. I went to Bridge Over Troubled Waters yesterday. I had a chance to go tour the facility and see the warming room. When I think about that, the warming room, for those of you that are helping for the first time, is a place that homeless people go to get warm off of the street. Think about that. My warming room is my living room couch. And I have that every single night, and I'm blessed with that. And a lot of us in this room are blessed with the fact that we have a couch, we have a living room, we have a bedroom, and we have a place to go. There are a lot of people we're going to see in the street tonight that don't have a place to go. And we need to make sure, as we go out there tonight, and Philip's talked about it, try and encourage them to go in. But after that, we have to make sure we work and follow through. When we talk about ending homelessness, I mean let's end homelessness here in the city of Boston. I want to thank the volunteers that are here tonight. There's a lot of chiefs, and we have Commissioner Finn is here, Chief Hooley is here, we have Dan Coe, Chief of Staff is here, we have Commissioner Dunn, and I'm in trouble. We have other people that are here. But most importantly, we have volunteers and people that work in this building every single day that took time out of your schedule to be on the street tonight to help us count. As the night goes on tonight, those of you that are doing this for the first time, I can promise you this. When you see somebody, and when you get home tonight, and you go in your front door, and you shut that door, and the heat's on in your house, you're going to be extremely grateful that you came out tonight. And I'm grateful that you came out tonight. Thank you very much.
We're getting close to the end of the show, but so based on closing thoughts, I mean, so you feel like that was more of a show?
Totally. It sounds good. Let me see something. You know, proof's in the pudding.
And James, it's been fantastic working with you. I've learned so much from you, and it's a joy reading your column every 2 weeks, and also just talking to you about the history of Spare Change News. It's been very beneficial for me, and I've actually enjoyed the story. So I feel like we're working for the same team and working for the same thing, and it's a great honor to work with you.
Good to be here.
And if you want to find out more information, go to sparechangenews.net. James, again, what's your GoFundMe? It's GoFundMe.com.
Yep, Voices of Homeless.
Voices of Homeless. We're both on Facebook, and we have a link on our Facebook page as well. Thank you so much, and we will be back next Monday at 5:30 p.m. Thank you, and have a great night.